If you feel like you are spending half of your life preparing for meetings that nobody is respecting you in anyways, then this one is for you. Because today I want to show you how to not only become the most influential person in that room, but to do it in a way that you are actually only spending 10 minutes preparing instead of the hours upon end to help yourself look smart in that moment. So, actually, let's start there. Let's start right in the end of that statement. Why are you trying to look smart in those meetings? And how is that effort, how is that drive to make sure that everybody knows how much you know about this topic actually working against you? Well, first and foremost, when you are trying to look smart, you are showing everything you have. You are coming at people with so much information. We've all been there, right? You have walked into that meeting where someone has their laptop open, they have all of the documents open that they need to reference. They maybe have a legal pad in hand where they can look back at their notes. They are ready to speak to every single question before anybody asks it, right? They're answering it before it even gets a chance to be asked in the moment. And you know that that person just spent hours. You've probably been that person before. I have seen leaders spend meetings before the meetings prepping to be able to speak to their teams, right? They want to make sure that they look like they know what they're talking about when they're talking to their cascading teams, whether it's 10 people or 200 people. I've seen them put in hours upon hours of work studying to learn every single detail about a topic or a problem or a change when they're going to talk to their boss or to the senior leadership team. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they want people to have confidence in them. They want people to hear them speak and say, oh, they know what they're talking about. She really has her stuff together. You're doing it because you want your team to feel like you are able to hold the problems with them, that you're not flustered and you're not out of touch. You want them to know that you're right there, that you have a close feel to everything that they're working on. And you want those managers of yours, those senior leaders in the company, maybe the board of directors, to know that you have a handle on the problems and the concerns within your organization. But the problem is when you share everything like that, when you come in with all of your information, you come in with the perfectly created PowerPoint, right? The perfect slide deck that has all of the information within it. You come in with all of your notes, with everything from your legal pad that you are going to specifically touch on for people. You come in with all of that. And what it inadvertently communicates is that everything you know can be put into a single slide deck. Everything you know about the problem and the impact that it's going to have can fit into this one legal pad. And what that says is that your knowledge is capped. Everything you know can be contained in something else. We don't necessarily need you, Susie, because everything you know is now in this document. Everything you know is now in this slide deck. We have that. We have no reason to keep you in this situation, or worse yet, in this role, because everything you know is now just here. You're not growing and expanding as things change. Now, that may not be true. You may be absolutely growing with everything that's going on, but that's not what you're communicating. You're showing them that everything that you know is already contained in something else that they can actually tangibly hold. So you go to the next best thing, right? You go to actually having all the information in your head and being prepared to answer every single question that they could throw at you, which is better. It's better than just coming in and reading from your notes and, word vomiting on them every single thing that you have to say. But it's only a little bit better. Because again, you are only touching on those specifics that you already know. Nobody likes to feel like they don't know things. And while that is true of you, and I know that that's why you're preparing, it's also true of the people in the audience with you. It's also true of your team as you're delivering the information to them. It's also true of those senior leaders as you are, presenting on what's going on in the organization. They want to know, they want to feel like they know things too. And so when you constantly have the answer to go right back at them with, you're telling them that you know more than them. And that's not the right feeling you want to give either. You want everyone around you to feel like you are in it with them. So, with all of that said, it is time to stop killing yourself in the preparation. It is time to stop killing yourself by getting everything together, organizing all of your notes, and being ready for every single thing that they can throw at you. I'm going to give you an example of why this is so important and how this can actually lead to the best opportunities for you in your career. But I want to start with just the 3 steps of what you do want to know, what you do want to bring with you into the preparation of those meetings. And I promise you, it will take you about 10 minutes instead of the hours that you are already spending. So, first and foremost, I want you to know the problem you're solving. Know the problem you're solving. That sounds much simpler than it actually is. Oftentimes, the problem that we think we're solving is just a surface level symptom of the greater problem. You've maybe heard of people talking about asking why 7 times. Asking why, how could that be that we have this symptom problem, and really getting to the root of what that problem is. Now, the reason you do this, obviously, is so that you aren't solving for something that doesn't actually matter. So sometimes, for example, you will have leaders who think they are solving for a motivation problem, for a behavioral problem within their team. Nobody is, getting through their queue fast enough. Nobody is making their calls appropriately. Okay, so we think we need to train them. We think we need to, put some incentive out there. We think we need to have some sort of stick that we can hit people with so that they actually get the work done. When in reality, there is some sort of system problem. There's some sort of process problem that's making it really difficult for people to get to that next step. So, understanding what the true problem is going to be the very first thing that you want to know. And oftentimes, that can be the catalyst to opening doors for you. Walking into a room and just sort of uncovering what the real problem is that you want to work on or that you need to work on, that can sometimes be the key to everything. So I want to give one example of where that happened in my own career. I was working with 2 gentlemen. One of them was my boss, one was a colleague of his. So both of them were above me in the organization. And they thought that we were dealing with like a society type problem, something we could do nothing about. Nobody was applying for the jobs that we had posted. Nobody wanted to do the type of work that we had out there. Now, they were looking at it from a standpoint of nobody wants to work today, which is not useful. Maybe it's true, but it's just not helpful, right? It doesn't get us any closer to our goals or our staffing needs to just assume that kids today don't want to work or that they're lazy or entitled or whatever words you want to put in there. And so, again, whether that's true or not, I can't solve for that problem. I can't fix that. What I can fix might be just hidden behind what's actually driving that, what the real root problem is. And so when I started asking the question of, well, why would that be? Why would it be that no one wants to do this work? Again, whether it's true or not, what are some reasons that could be contributing to that? Now we got to find out that, the pay really didn't align with the type of work that we were looking for. We also found out that there was, kind of like a moment's notice. You needed to be able to jump on a plane immediately when you got the call. Well, if we could make that, a little bit more local, if we could have people that were across a broader area rather than all located in one area and flying out, maybe that would make it more appealing. If we were able to make the job safer in some way. This was like a dirty, dangerous job. So if there was a way to actually make it safer so that people knew that they were going to go home to their families after they got done with work, maybe that would help them, be more interested in this job. All of these things were more solvable than no one wants to work today, right? And so, better understanding the problem that we were actually solving in that meeting gave me the opportunity to lead in that recruitment effort because I didn't know the answer, but I did know what question to ask to get to the problem. Hear that when I say it because I am not special. The opportunity didn't lie behind me, the lowest level person in that room, knowing the answer to anything. The opportunity lied in me asking the questions that there in that room we could not answer. Because that opened up an opportunity for me to work with a whole bunch of really smart people to be able to find a solution. So that is the first thing I need you to know because that is the thing that is going to open so many doors for you and get more people on your side. Notice how I said in this meeting, both of them kind of had their arms crossed. They were not interested. They just were ready to complain about kids today not working. Mind you, this was years and years ago. So the kids today, different from the true kids today. So it allowed me to get us all on the same level to be able to figure out what problem we were solving. So get yourself and everyone in that meeting room with you on the same level because, like we talked about in the beginning, that is what people really want. We want to know that we're in this together. And then ask the questions that allow you to step into that new opportunity. Or if you're the senior leader in the room, give that opportunity to somebody else that you see that potential in. All right. Number 2, I need you to know your audience. Know the audience, not just in like what's their title, what's their rank, what sort of style do they like in their presentations. All of that is somewhat important, but even more important than that is knowing what their values are, knowing what their goals are, because you are going to talk to someone very differently if their goal is speed as compared to if their goal is quality. Now, hopefully you can hit both things, right? Hopefully you can attack the problem that you're solving or attack the change that you need to implement, the change that you need to drive forward, and do it with both quality and speed. In an ideal world, both of those hit. However, when you are speaking to people who value different things, you play up what is important to them. You make sure that you give them evidence, that you give them proof that shows that you can do this with speed, that shows that you can do this with quality, that shows that you can do this with the customer in mind, that shows that you can do this while supporting all of the different businesses in the organization, that shows that you can do it while supporting each different branch and their specific needs. It all depends on what is important to them. And that is going to be different for every single person. I was working with one client who was doing a really, really deep dive in this with her boss. And she realized through that deep dive that what she thought he valued, right, what she originally had thought he'd valued was people development. And so she had been kind of coming at things with an angle of let's give them an opportunity to try this out. And she noticed that that consistently made him pull back. So it wasn't necessarily development that was important to him. It was caring about people. which oftentimes had shown up as training them or oftentimes showed up as giving them different little projects to work on. So she originally thought it was development, but what it really was caring about people. So then instead of, coming at him with these big opportunities that she wanted for people, because that could feel risky, that could feel like maybe a potential for failure for those people, he had been pulling back. So when she came at it from a position of care and how we can better support people, it allowed him to see those situations in an entirely different light. It allowed him to really invest in those people in a way that would give them opportunities, that would give them development, that would give them all of the things that they needed, packaged in a way that made them feel supported and cared for. And every single leader is going to be different in that, right? Some of them are really going to be caring about the bottom line. Some of them are really going to care a lot about hitting their numbers, making sure that their metrics are met. And some of them are going to care about development. Some of them are going to care about culture. Some of them are going to care about face-to-face time with customers and employees. And you can find that out in simple interactions with them, in watching where they focus their time, where they focus their talk. All right. So that is number 2. First, you're going to know the problem that you're solving, really, truly the problem that needs to be solved. And 2, you are going to know your audience and understand their goals and values. And then third, you are going to be able to put this together. Okay. So number 3 is just knowing how your solution touches on both of them. Okay. It's not enough to solve the problem. There are lots of times where we have seen people solve a problem or we ourselves have come up with a fail-proof solution to something, only to have every single person around us in a position of power say no, because it didn't actually touch on the values and goals of that group, because it didn't actually make them feel good in advancing their own goals. So 3 is just simply putting together 1 and 2 so that you can support both their goals, their values, and the problem that needs to be solved. This is easier than you think, and it will open more doors than you ever thought possible. Now, I gave you a couple of good examples, but I want to give you one that walks all the way through all 3 pieces. And this is a prior client that I had worked with years ago now. And she was very interested in reducing silos. She was working in an organization, a massive global organization, where the 2 sides of IT were absolutely separate. Okay. 2 very big silos. One was very focused on tickets, so like service center tickets or break fix things, right? The things that you call the help desk for and let them know that this is broken and someone needs to fix it immediately. I can't fix it. Okay, so there was that one silo. And then there were the things that they were doing to enhance the business. Most of those were internal. So I'm not talking about like changes to the website. I'm not talking about things that make it easier for customers to buy from them or anything like that. The 2 different silos within IT that she was working with was the break fix, service desk, help desk, whatever you want to call it, and then the enhancements to internal things. So things like hooking up meeting rooms so that they were able to Zoom more collaboratively with people who are inside of an office and working remotely or working from 2 different offices on the other side of the globe. Or things like making sure that we had the best technology for whatever you want to call it, Teams or Skype or Slack or whatever the option was, so that they could communicate outside of video, but internally for the company. Those sort of enhancement things. Now, they had limited resources, as we all do in every organization. It doesn't matter what size you are. There are limited resources, and everyone thinks that their project is the most important. But if you've ever worked with an IT group before, you know that break fix is going to take precedence over enhancements. I'm not saying that it should, I'm just saying it always does. Because if someone gets stopped dead in their tracks from what they're trying to work on, that is where we put our resources. We put out those fires before we build something new over here. So, what she needed, or what she wanted to solve, the problem she wanted to solve, was to integrate these two silos, was to have the left hand know what the right hand was doing so that they could make more progress on both sides of the coin. When she was presenting this idea, it was to a level of executives that represented different business units. So when we're thinking of IT, it was actually the customers of those IT functions that she was talking to. Now, if you're talking to IT about something like this and wanting to integrate this more, they're probably looking at headcount. They're probably looking at um, the expenses, right? Because all of those things are going to go into their budget and how they make things work. They might be thinking about the process and how, information flowing through one centralized group will get out to the people who actually need to do the work. She wasn't talking to them though. So she didn't need to answer those types of questions. She didn't need to be prepared for all of that. What she needed to be prepared for was, how is this going to make my ticket get responded to sooner? She needed to be prepared for, how am I going to know who to go to for which thing? Right? She could play up a single point of contact pretty well with this group because then they didn't even have to put any thought into that part. She could play up the fact that she had a way of disseminating this instantly, and that there would be progress made on those enhancements that they wanted, as well as completing all of those tickets that they had sitting out there, and they would get the best of both worlds. Those were the things that she could focus on because those were the goals and the values of those individuals in the room. Now, she didn't need to think too much about budget because they don't care about IT's budget. That's not something that they are focused on. So she could provide her solution to touch on everything that was critical to them. What that actually amounted to for her was her boss saying, "That sounds like a full-time job." And she said, "It is. And it needs to be a full-time job on par with all of the gentlemen in that room so that they have the level of respect for this position that it needs to have. This position needs to be influential and powerful and able to sit on level playing field with all of those men in that room." And her boss said, "I absolutely agree. Write up the job description for an executive level position that would handle this type of work." And so she did. And she was promoted to that very job that she was asked to create the job description for within 6 weeks of clarifying the true root problem that she had seen. Not because she could answer every question, not because she knew every single detail about how this IT system worked. In a company of this size, literally no one can. No one has all of that information. And that is what stops so many talented leaders from moving forward, is because they think they need to know it all, and it's just not possible. And so what she did was understand the problem that needed to be solved. She was able to influence the decision making around how this problem was solved by knowing the audience she was talking to. And it allowed her to touch on everything and get promoted to what was her dream job within 6 weeks. All right, if that is the level of influence that you want to have in your organization without killing yourself in the preparation for all of these meetings, and allow those things to actually be the catalyst that launch you into the career of your dreams, then I would encourage you to click the link below and talk me through what you would do in your organization if you had this opportunity. And as always, share this video with anyone who you see who is also going through this transition. Anyone you see who is killing themselves in the preparation for the meetings because they want the best level result, share the video with them and let them know, one, they're not alone, and two, there is a better way to get this done.